Well, I'd like to welcome you to this 8-session course on teachability. As some of you, I'm sure, are wondering, is teachability a word? I can assure you it's not a word, either in English or in French and probably any other language that I know of. I had to invent a word. As some of you that are familiar with my material know that I do so on occasion, invent words, and so I did have to invent a term to even talk about this. I now understand that, at least in the English educational circles, the word is spreading around so that others are beginning to use it as well. It's quite obvious, I think, from the word what it means: able to be taught, perhaps capable of being taught. Much different, and we're differentiating it here, of course, from intelligence. You can have a very intelligent child who's not at all receptive to being taught, and a child that is lacking in intelligence who is very receptive to being taught. And so we're talking here about a different factor, and a factor that is seldom considered in the learning equation. There are some conversations that go on, but usually in professional development, this is ignored completely. And after putting all the pieces together, I'm convinced that it is actually the main factor in the learning equation. And I hope after these 8 sessions together that you will also be convinced in whatever venue you represent. Some of you will be here involved in as classroom teachers, some as helping professionals, consulting with the school system. Some will be involved in early education, others in the elementary, others in high school. Some will be taking this course as administrators, but hopefully we can all get on the same page with this. Some of you will be taking the course as teaching assistants or behavioral assistants and so on. But understanding this factor, I think, is one of the most significant. Now, I've called it teachability factor. I couldn't find a term that actually moved to cover both behavior and learning. And so as we get into this, you'll see that really we're talking about a factor that impacts both problem behavior and learning problems. And so the more we understand it, the more we can address it. I think this factor is somewhat of an elephant in the room. An elephant in the room in the sense that it's the biggest thing that is there and the thing that is not talked about. And one of the reasons we don't talk about it is because we have no words for it. Hence, I had to make up a word. You can see the problem. We just have no words for it. We talk about pedagogy, we talk about curriculum, we talk about technology. We have no words for this. And so we're unable to develop a science around it. We're unable to develop a theory around it. And so again, science can only move ahead when you have a term that can organize the information around. And I'm hoping this term does it for you in this course, as it organizes all the information around this, which ends up to be, all evidence points to this being, again, as I said, the biggest factor in the learning equation, in fact, bigger than all the other ones combined. And so I hope it makes sense to you. The subtitle is Why Teaching is Getting Harder and What Can Be Done About it. I've talked to many teachers who have been in the field for 25, 30, 35 years. And many of these teachers share the same experience that is rather mysterious to them. That why would teaching be getting harder? Why do they experience more frustration with teaching despite all the years of their experience? Why would it seem to be getting harder, not easier? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, of course, unless this teachability factor that we're going to talk about is taken into consideration. And so we're going to answer that, why teaching is getting harder, and of course what can be done about it. But we first of all have to make sense of what teachability is, and I would invite you to think of a couple of students that seem to you to be very teachable, very receptive to being taught, and a couple of students in your life that you experience being not receptive at all to being taught, despite having all the potential of learning. There seems to be something in the way, and see if this material helps make sense of that. Consider this, that despite significant advances in pedagogy, those on the French side are very familiar with this term. On the English side, we have lost the term pedagogy, unfortunately. But think of it here as the art and science of teaching. Despite significant advances in the art and science of teaching, significant advances in technology, significant advances in curriculum and fine-tuning the curriculum, we've made tremendous progress in these areas in the last 20 years. That despite all of these advances, are actually efficiency in terms of education. The amount that our teaching translates into learning is actually decreasing. Literacy rates are actually falling. We're having more and more difficulty being able to do our job. When you consider this, you consider the problem. Does the answer then lie in curriculum? Are we to try and hone it some more? Does the answer then lie in pedagogy? Does the answer then lie in technology? If you go to professional development seminars, which most taking this course will go to regularly, you could divide pretty well all the seminars, all the workshops into one of these three categories. Pedagogy, curriculum, and technology. And yet, as I said, if teaching is actually getting more difficult, we're barking up the wrong tree, so to speak. We're focusing on the wrong areas. You can look at it this way, that the learning equation, we usually think of the learning equation, is being able to take a university-trained, government certified, school board hired, a teacher, so everything is absolutely okay on this side. We simply add a child in need of learning, and voila, learning should occur. If it was this easy, we wouldn't have burnout in the teaching profession. We wouldn't have so many individuals who leave it. We'd have one of the most satisfied professions in the world if it was this easy. If this is how it went. And as we said, we all know that teaching doesn't automatically result in learning, despite our best efforts. It doesn't always result in learning. And children vary tremendously in this factor. Some of your students are very receptive. At the end of the day, you have this tremendous satisfaction that, yes, what you've taught has translated into learning. And I don't just mean performance here. I don't mean, when I say learning here, I'm talking about true learning, not what we measure in tests. All of us know, when we went to school, that when you studied for a test and when you performed in a test, that wasn't necessarily what you remembered a month later. It wasn't necessarily what you went home or after the year that you had. When you look at your education, you want to know what lasted, what stuck with you. Where did the real learning occur, not just the performance? But even in terms of the performance, it's so frustrating when you spend all your efforts doing the best you can do. And as a university teacher for years and years and years, you would give the best lesson you could. You would put everything into it, give all you had, and then they would write the exam. And you'd look at the exam, and you go, how in the world did so much of my teaching not translate into the learning? Like, what happened? I know these students are bright. I know, there's all kinds of things there, what happened, and that's exactly what we're looking at. In the school system, we tend to put the focus on the school itself, on the system, on the education system, and I use this as just simply to represent it, the old icon of the school, and we add a schedule to it, a bell, and so if we can get them in the same place at the same time, if we can get everybody into the classroom, and so we systematize things, we systematize learning, that again, learning will result. In fact, that's where a lot of focus goes on system change. And I'm going to suggest here that it is not. Again, it is not a system change. After all the efforts we put into revising systems, into new ways of thinking, we're still missing the most important factor in the learning equation.